What's just one big piece of advice for people who, and people say, you don't know what I've been through. My response to that is, well, you don't know what I've been through.
Right.
But what
Yeah.
would you say? What's a piece of advice that you would give to people that have kind of that defeated mindset where they feel like
Mhm.
they're a failure or they're they're
Right.
they're defeated and they don't
I would
have what it
say
takes?
I would say two things. If you're angry about what you went through, you're probably still a victim. If you're blaming others for your current shortcomings, you're probably still a victim. And if you want to get out of the curse or the ramifications of what those people did to you or out from under the damage that they caused you, you got to get out of being a victim. You can't be a victim anymore. I'll hear people's stories and I'll look at them and I say, yeah, that is really tragic that you experienced that. But if you let that dictate what you're going to be now, then you're responsible for it now. Yeah, you got handed something that, no one deserved. But at this point, as an adult, you've got to make up your own mind to not be that person anymore and to rewrite your story and rebuild yourself. And it hurts. It hurts to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm damaged this way, or I'm missing this thing, or I don't understand this thing about life because my parents didn't give it to me, or this person did something really bad to me and it messed with my head or it messed with my heart. Yeah, it sucks, but you got to be direct and honest with yourself and say, yeah, I'm missing X, Y, and Z, but the only way I'm going to get it is if I forgive all that stuff, I let all that stuff go, and I figure out how to give myself that now. I never even met my dad. And so there's a ton of stuff he didn't give me in life. And when I was 21, I realized that if I wanted any of that stuff, I was going to have to teach myself. There wasn't going to be anybody there for me. I'd always hoped another guy would come in, marry my mom and become a dad for me, or some guy at church would, take me under his wing or adopt me. Not that there weren't good people in my life, but nobody was that real person for me that I had always longed for. And 21 years old, my girlfriend at the time broke up with me because I didn't understand how to be a man. I didn't have a good career. I didn't know how to fix a car. I didn't know how to, install a dishwasher or a washing machine. I didn't know what the lights on your dashboard of your car meant. I didn't know how to fish. I'd never hunted anything. I didn't know any of that stuff. And yeah, it wasn't my fault, of course. But instead of just being upset about the fact that I didn't get it, you got to focus on what you can do. And so I just set my mind to learning that stuff because not only did I not want to experience that kind of rejection again, but I had to look at myself in the mirror and say that she was right. She was right. I didn't know any of that stuff. And up to that point, I'd been insecure about it or defensive about it, or I blamed other people for it. But I just decided I was going to own it. I was going to be an owner of my story and my future. And I wasn't going to let anybody that didn't do something for me or somebody did something wrong to me dictate how my future was going to go anymore. And I transferred from my job at my school. I worked in the mail department. I transferred from there to the maintenance and construction department. And to say that I was intimidated or terrified is an understatement. My first day there, I showed up. There was 3 other maintenance techs. And so the guy who ran the department started handing out all these work tickets. You take this two, this one, this one, and this one. You take these 2 because they're right next to each other. And so I ended up with a little stack, I think 4 work tickets of things that I needed to go do. And I was reading through them and I didn't understand any of it. And so everybody kind of started moving around the shop trying to find the tools they need and the supplies they needed. And some guys were cutting stuff. And I was looking around going like, oh, what am I going to do? Like I had to stall until everyone was gone so I could sit down and focus enough to try to figure out what I was going to need or how I was going to fix this stuff because I didn't know anything about it. And the boss at the time had kind of come back and forth a couple times. And I think he figured out that I was stalling, And so he came over real graciously. I asked him, let's see, how did I phrase the question? I tried to phrase it in a way that he wouldn't know that I didn't know anything about what I was doing. And I think I asked him where the tools were, something like that. Where are the tools I'm going to use for this? I didn't even know what tools I was going to use. I was just hoping he was going to point them out. And he was like, okay, yeah, you're going to find a crescent wrench. I'll never forget. He's like, you're going to find a crescent wrench over here, and then you're going to find your metric sockets over there. And then I just didn't hear anything else after that. I just glazed over because I didn't know what any of those things were. And I was like, okay, cool. And so then I go over to the drawer that he kind of pointed at, and I opened it, and there's all this stuff in there. I didn't have any idea what a crescent wrench was. And so I'm like, well, I can't figure that out. So I went over to the socket thing, and I was like, okay, I think I can tell these go on something, but I literally didn't know how to connect. I literally didn't know. And so next thing I knew, I was so frustrated and so insecure. I was standing there crying, literally just crying, hoping that like no one was around, because I had that moment where I started to feel really angry about the fact that my brother actually took me to meet him. He didn't tell me. I was in the car. He didn't tell me where we were going. My brother knew him. We had different dads. He took me to meet him, and he went up to the door or whatever and told him that I was out there. And he's like, no, I don't want to meet him. Like, he wouldn't even walk out of his house to come meet me. So I'm standing there like thinking about that. I was so angry for a moment. And then I just realized it doesn't do any good to be angry. There's no reason to be angry now. It's done and over with a long time over with. And so I just collected myself and realized that I'd taken this job to figure it out, and that I could figure it out because other guys did it. So if they can do it, I can do it. And I walked into the guy's office, and I basically just told him the truth. And he took me under his wing, and he helped me. And, a year of doing that job, I came out with this incredible confidence because I'd figured out how to build things. I figured out how to repair things. My mind opened up to all these possibilities because I was able to get past my victim mentality. It was no longer important who was to blame for what had happened to me. It was important that I took the steering wheel so that I could write my future. So I would say for people that are struggling with their story, you want to be the author of it from here on out. You don't want anybody else have the pen. Nobody else sitting at the typewriter. It's just you. And if you think it's someone else, you're wrong. You're letting them do that.